Right? And I'm not playing no games.
All right, folks, I am Pops, and welcome to our debut episode of Why Is It Great? And with me, Sequential Treasures himself, James Meeley, is going to be joining me. Here we are. So we're each going to pick a single comic book that we think is great, a standalone story, something that is very representative maybe of that character or that story or something like that, something that makes it really worth your while, but it's like a single issue. We're going to focus on a standalone issue that is something that, and I got to be honest, mine wouldn't be that expensive. I don't think James's would be that expensive either if you want to grab that one. So, James, my friend, this was your idea. Kudos to you. This sounds like fun.
I just thought, there's a lot of stuff going, with how bad the books are nowadays and the modern stuff. So it's like, sitting around and complaining about all the bad stuff. Yeah, maybe that can be fun, roasting them and everything. But a lot of people do that. Who's out there actually promoting something worth reading? Who's out there talking about like, hey, here's something good and you should check it out? I thought maybe that's a tack we could take with this is like kind of, instead of steering people away from the bad stuff, which is important, we could also try to maybe steer them towards some good stuff instead.
Well, I think it's such a great idea too. And I actually had already started a list of like 4 or 5 single standalone issues kind of for that exact reason, like something that was just like a single issue that would be worth reading. And particularly something that would be on like a budget. So I was trying to find more, I don't want to say modern, but more even with me, I mean, copper and bronze.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I mean, for me, I'll be getting stuff. Maybe it will be part of a saga, but I'll focus on the best part of the saga. Like I know there's one I'm doing. It was part of a 3-part storyline, but the part 2 is the best part of it, and that's the issue you got to focus on. So I'll be bringing some stuff that's not necessarily all done in one stories, but they're all great stories, and they all can be read on their own. And you can enjoy them for what they are. It's not like we're like, oh, I'm completely lost. I don't know what I'm doing. So that's how I'm approaching it, just to try to steer all the good stuff.
I agree. And yeah,
so
again, folks, all the stuff is, we're going to start with yours. All the stuff is in the description to subscribe to James, check out his stuff. There'll be links to also his art channel where you get original comic book art from stuff that's great on a budget all the way up to some nice and expensive things, investor type things. Just everything is there. It's in the description. Make sure if you're interested, please connect to this guy. He's just become such a great friend, and comic book knowledge is, we're talking, puts me to shame. So, all right, so let's share this, an Iron Man book.
Iron Man number 237. It's one of my favorite issues of Iron Man. It is a done in one story. It's a solo single issue story. It's Iron Man in space fighting an alien. It's kind of like mixed aliens with Iron Man kind of thing, and a little bit of like government intrigue as well is involved in this. So it's all just a really great done in one story by Dave Michelini, Jackson Geist, one of my personal favorite artists, and inks by Bob Layton. It's just like I say, it's the complete package for me. It's just if you like superhero stuff, if you like high tech stuff, if you like space and sci-fi stuff, it kind of hits on all those notes. And we're going to get into here of why I think it's just such a great story. So we can start here with the first page.
All right. I tell you this, when I saw this page, I just love the color and the ink.
Yes. This page right here, it basically sets up the whole premise of the story. Tony has been dealing with some fallout from the armor wars in this. He was getting sued by people and everything. And the government shows up at his door and they say, we have this problem. We have these people on this satellite that we're doing this research with. It's supposedly people think is closed down, but we're really doing secret research. And we've lost contact with them, and we'd like you to send Iron Man up to investigate. And Tony, he's a hero, but again, he's a businessman. You can see here, he even says it right here in the third panel, what's in it for me? He's, because he's a businessman. And I love that they show you that that's how he is. He's not just some guy who's just completely altruistic. He thinks about, his own interests as well. And they say, well, we'll drop all the government lawsuits against you for the armor wars fiasco. And he's like, well, that's not good enough. And he goes, all right, we'll also unofficially try to quiet down and get rid of all the private civil suits against you. And he's like, all right, cool. I think I can get Iron Man to do this for you. And so this is how he gets all set up. The government comes to him to ask a favor. He gets something in return. And so now he's going to go do this investigating for the government up in space to find out why the people at this satellite that they have doing secret research has gone dark. So then we go to the next page. Now this is, I love this because this shows you as advanced as his tech is. You can see he's wearing this contraption around because the armor is not powerful enough to get him into space alone. So he had to wear this getup to get into space, and I like that. It shows you that for as powerful as he is, he's not all powerful. And here it is. He had just got done investigating at the satellite of the government and found that they were creating a satellite destroyer up there, but a organic one. It's not like a machine. It's alive, and it's somehow they lost control of it, and all the people in there are dead. And so to try to figure out, and he figured out the only place for this thing to go is an old satellite. You see it right there in the second panel. There is one that he had built. Now this happened back in Iron Man 215 and 216, where he had built a satellite in space where he's trying to help launch humanity into space. And AIM came up. They released a virus, a bacterial virus on the space station, and it's dormant when there's no air, but if there's oxygen, the virus becomes active and it's very deadly to organic stuff. So he goes there thinking this is where the creature has to be. And he goes, the irony of this is, he even says it here. What's he say? He says it right here. He goes, with current technology, a full-scale cleanup would be cost prohibitive. But I'd always hope that someday that station would once more become a beacon of hope. Instead, it's become home to a monster. The irony does not escape me. He created something, for good, and yet it's become a monstrous thing. And so he goes try to find the creature now. And this is then we go to the next one here. The next page, and here it is, the creature. This is what he finds. He goes, thank God it's sleeping, and then the eye opens. I mean, classic aliens, classic any kind of horror type of situation with a monster. And I love the design. It's looks like it's part bat and part, I don't know, part crazy creation. I just love the design work that Leighton and Geist did on this. And it's just looking at that shot of the close up of Iron Man. That shot of his face. The sharp lines of Jackson Geist really show through in all of this story, which I love. His line work is some of the best in the business. It always has been, as far as I'm concerned. And his lines are so sharp you could almost shave with them. So this is great stuff right here. And so now we can go on to the next one.
Just a beautiful, beautiful page. I mean, that's just extraordinary page. I mean, I just love that one so much.
I love the angle they use too, where you can see how much larger the creature is to Iron Man. You can see in the splash image how much bigger it is. He's not facing some little thing. This is a monstrous sized creature. Okay, now the creature attacks, and I gave you guys this page because you can see here, after he hits him, you can see in the next few panels, his armor is damaged. That's how powerful this creature is. It can damage the armor in a single swipe of its claws. So he's not facing some creatures like, oh, well, my armor will protect me. I'm in no danger. Nothing's going to happen to me. I'm totally protected. No, the armor is not necessarily going to give him the protection he thinks it will. And he goes, it's fast, impossibly so. Fluid in its element. Its foot-long claws rake the strongest armor I've ever constructed. Armor that man-made weapons can barely smudge. You see, he's telling you this is how powerful this is. So what he's facing is a deadly danger. This is something that even Iron Man, in all his power, is going to be mortal to this. It's not like he's facing just some guy with a handgun. He's facing something that could actually kill him. And so he sees the creature takes off, and so now he's thinking, I got to head back. He goes, I decide I've earned my pay. I'll head back, make my report, let the government handle the cleanup chores. So he's thinking like, all right, I'm done here. I'm finished. I'm out. But what happens is you can see when the creature takes off, he heads to where he had stored his extra booster rocket, and he damages it. So now he can't get off the space station. Now he's trapped on the space station with this alien who has no problem damaging his armor. So we can go to the next page.
Brilliant.
You see here, he's using weapons on him and stuff. He tried to freeze it, and he goes, I hope the frozen coating will hold the monster, but it shrugs acid ice, but it shrugs acid ice cracks. Now it's mad. I hate running, hate dying even more. The way things are going, I may do both. I mean, he sees he's in over his head. Nothing he can do can stop this thing. Again, it's a man in a circumstance that he can't control, facing an overwhelming force that he has no hope of defeating. Everything he does only antagonizes the creature. It doesn't do anything to stop it. It's just the creature it was because it was designed for this. And there was another page I didn't use here, but he fires probably his most powerful weapon is pulse bolts, and it barely budges the creature. And all throughout this, he's just feeling all this sense of guilt and remorse at seeing what's happening on the station, because when he blasted with the pulse bolts, he knocks the creature back inside, because they were outside for a minute. He knocked them back inside. He goes, knocked the creature back inside through the walls of the space, and damaging my dream again. Wonderful. He's just feeling all this remorse at seeing his dream being destroyed by this creature. After what AIM did was bad enough, but now I got this too. It's just more damage. It's just it never ends. And you can see here, like I said, he's on the run now. So we'll go to the next one here.
What's the term for when? What's the term when the art will kind of leave the panel, like between panels 1 and 2 and 3 and 4? How the claws kind of extend over the line there? Is there a term for that?
I think it's.
To me, it just creates so much movement.
Yeah, like I said, I'm very impressed. Like I've always been impressed with Geiss's work. The first time I ever saw his work was on the Flash for DC. But then when you came over here to Iron Man, working with Layton, and it's just like, stratosphere. As far as how good he is, and he's always, Jackson Geiss is probably one of my favorite top 10 comic book artists of all time. So.
Not a name everybody thinks about either. It's really good.
Okay, now this is after he's fought the creature, he's taken on more damage, but now we're seeing what's happening is because of what's happened, the creature being organic has been infected by the virus, the bacteria that AIM released back in issue 215, and it's dying from it. And he learns that this creature isn't just a mindless automaton; it's actually sentient. It's alive. It thinks. He goes, because why? It talks. Of course it does. It's intelligent. But there'd been no air to carry the sound. Because see, what happened is he flipped the switch to get gravity and stuff on the station, and it brought in the air again, got the air pumps working, and so now it activated the bacteria, and now it's killing the creature. And the creature, why you kill me? You killed those scientists, destroyed their lab, tried to kill me. He goes, and then it dies, dissolving inside the growing rot virus, the growing rot virus. But the last words that slide from its fulfilling lips will live with me forever. Was my job. His job was to do what he did. He attacked the scientists because he was created to destroy the very type of satellites they were working on. Of course, they was being created to do it for, what we call, quote unquote, the enemy satellites. The Soviet Union at this point would be the ones that was who he was going to go. But instead, he just attacked anybody, and that's it was his job. And this is the bottom three kind of really give you the impact of what this story is about. And he goes, in the hours that follow, as I repair my booster modules, I have time to consider those words and what they mean. The creature wasn't evil or even immoral. It was amoral, merely carrying out actions bred into it, which for it held no more intrinsic cruelty than a cat licking its whiskers. No, it had been the men behind it who had been the monsters, the immoral ones. The creature was dangerous, true. It would have had to have been destroyed in any event. But the attitudes that spawned it and the petty global angers and more are still more dangerous. And they have survived for centuries. So he's talking about like how the whole creation of the creature is the real evil. The creature wasn't the evil. It was the mentality and the reasoning behind why it was created. It's sort of like the whole, distrusting of your fellow man, and the hatreds of political hatreds between peoples and stuff like that. That bigotry, that hatred, that is where it all comes from. And while the creature was dangerous, it was the mentality behind it that was the true evil and the true danger. And you can see here he's repairing the booster that was damaged. And then we go to the final image here, which I just thought it was great to end it with this.
Well, I think that it's also like it's sort of like the xenomorph, right, from Alien. It's like, it's just an organism. I mean, I know it's a monster, and it's has no problem killing.
It's a creature, but it's not evil in the sense of like it's out to harm you because it wants to harm. It's just its nature. It was bred to be what it is, and it's just acting on those instincts. It's not something that it's like you said, but the mentality that was used to create the creature, that's the true evil, because that isn't instinctual. That is something that is created by man. That is something that we choose to do. And that's the whole point is all of this. And then he goes, it kind of makes you think, doesn't it? And there he is blasting off with his booster being makeshifted. And you can see here, during the issue, we got even more damage. You can see on the unibeam is damaged, and the one arm is got some scratches on it. So I mean, he really got damaged pretty badly in this. So again, he faced something that was like completely capable of killing him, and it was only by chicanery that he defeated it. And in the end, found out that it wasn't the creature that was the true evil; it was the people behind it and their mentalities that was the real monster. And just like a little morality tale, fashioned around, like, again, this is from 1988, so around the whole, distrust of the Iron Curtain and the Soviet Union, and the political meanderings of the day and all that. It all blends into this story about just a guy who was sent to do a job, and you found out that the job itself wasn't the problem. It was the people who created the job that were the problem. And I just thought it was a great little morality tale, right in the vein of stuff like the Twilight Zone. This could be like a Twilight Zone episode in a way, with that twist ending there, where he kind of gets the point that the monster wasn't the evil. It was the people who created him who are.
Well, I think, and it also just embodies so much of, like you said, it touched on early on just enough of Tony Stark dealing with the business side, the political side, all the different drama that he's caught himself up with, and then also being Iron Man himself, a dude who relies on this tech gets damaged, he's in over his head, he has got to find a way to be innovative and creative. And I have to be honest, the one thing that has always impressed me the most is that these guys can come up with these story ideas that are not repetitive and derivative and something different and unique. And I always want to ask those questions, like, where did you get the idea for this one? It's like you're sitting around a restaurant, you had a napkin idea where they jot something down, these kinds of things. This is what I love about these kinds of issues, because you just feel like, because they are so representative of the character, there's so much more that went into them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, David Michelinie's a great writer. I loved his work on Amazing Spider-Man with Todd McFarlane at this same time he was doing. But I thought as good as he was on Amazing, his work on Iron Man was even better. I thought he did a really great Tony Stark. Again, I liked the opening scene with the whole business aspect where he's negotiating with the government about what's in it for me, because we know he's a hero and all that, but he's still a businessman. And I like that they didn't like just sidetrack and say, well, he's just completely altruistic because he's a hero. It's like, no, he's a man. And he's Iron Man, okay? And so he has multifacets. Yes, he's a hero. Yes, he has altruistic tendencies to help people, and he wants to better society, like with the whole thing with his satellite that got, ruined by AIM. He was trying to help humanity. Yes, he does. But he's also a businessman, and he understands that, when somebody wants something of you, well, what's in it for me? Because, I'm putting myself out there. You got to put up something for me. And I just love that they didn't walk away from that or try to, sideline that and say, oh, we're not going to worry about it. No, that was very much a part of this. And I like that. Again, the multifaceted, it shows you what a multifaceted character really is. And it's why so many characters today are lacking. They don't have that kind of thing. You don't have a thing where you see some modern character and you're like, wow, they got all these facets and these different sides of themselves. It's like they're all just like, they're like a cipher for whatever the writer wants to do. And the character itself has no real character. But Tony Stark is different that way in this. And I like that they showed you the different sides of his character. That definitely made the story much stronger than it would have been. because again, you can see it's definitely very heavily influenced by Alien. I'm sure you can see that in there, like, oh yeah, the Alien thing, but you're out in space fighting a creature. Yes, but the way they did it, the way they got the government involved, and the way they got him involved, and the whole moral in the end, I like that. They took something that you could see in the story, like, yeah, I get it. You used aliens as sort of a backdrop, but you didn't let that be the story. You didn't just say, well, I'm going to tell the same story they told there. You said, no, I'm going to tell a completely different story. And I think it really worked out well. And like I said, it's all done in one great story. If you like sci-fi, if you like horror, if you like superheroes, this will cover you. And again, you'll learn, if this doesn't make you an Iron Man fan, I don't know what would make somebody an Iron Man fan after reading this issue if this doesn't.
No, it's actually a fantastic. And again, if you get yourself hooked into this little era, then you're going to easily go backwards and get that Armor War story, which is just a classic story. And I know it's just a travesty of how they're going to end up adapting this, because I don't know how you're doing this without Tony Stark, but okay, whatever. Yeah, great choice, James. Home run, just an absolute home run. Great choice. So,
well, I gotta say, I picked this issue specifically, Pops, because when we did our little thing on for the Christmas story we did about how to get people in, you had mentioned you were interested by the cover, so I thought, well, let me give you some details on the book. Now maybe you're interested and want to get the book yourself. So this wasn't just for the folks watching who I did this for. I did this for you too. So maybe you'll want to pick up Iron Man 237.
I really wouldn't mind rereading, from like 200 to 250 and trying to reread some Iron Man stuff like that. I've really just kind of been dive deep, a little here, a little there, and some different things. So yeah, I definitely could use a break and go back into the 80s and 90s and enjoy some of that stuff. I was never really a huge Iron Man reader. I mean, Armor Wars was a must, and like the cover of 225, where he's hanging by all the cables, got like a purple background.
232, and that's the aftermath.
232, yeah, that was.
Wars. Yep.
Yeah, just that cover just was always like a knock my socks off kind of cover. I remember that one in particular. But no, I mean, obviously Layton's work is just renowned. I mean, it's just incredible.
Well, no one has ever inked the character better. I mean, a lot of great talents have worked on the character, but Layton, he always knew how to get just the right sheen on that armor to make it look shiny and metallic. Some guys, they drew it and it looks kind of flat. It looks kind of like maybe it'd be like paper mache or something. It doesn't look metallic, whereas when Layton inks it, it always had that metallic feel. And, and again, when you add in the super sharp line work and draftsmanship of Jackson Geis, I mean, that's a match made in heaven as far as I'm concerned. I'm sorry that Geis's run was so short. He only did from like issue 233 to 240. It was a short run, but this issue was definitely the highlight to me of that run. And again, if Geis would have stayed on the book longer, I probably would have loved that. Just him and Layton doing Iron Man for like a 3 or 4 year run would have been awesome.
Oh yeah. No, I think it's like I said, I think it's a great option. So all right, so I went to kind of like an OG. You sent me your stuff, which was great because I had an idea, so I could try to figure out how to steer towards something different. I went to Old Faithful because I mean, obviously, I've said I'm a Batman collector, kind of more than anything else. So this was literally one of those books that I remember reading for the first time when it first came out. It's a great Neil Adams cover, just always blew me away. It came out in 1990, so it's literally like right in my sweet spot where I'm really just enjoying sort of like the dive deep of all of this. And this issue is it's called Batman Annual 14. Annuals, of course, also become very gimmicky right after this era. So like when the next few years you start ending up with like a whole bunch of like gimmicks and things like that. Where they do Armageddon 2001, they'd start doing all sorts of different things like that.
Well, Marvel did it before DC did it. That's why Marvel did it for a few years and then it was successful. And so then DC said, "Hey, we should do that."
Yeah. So Two-Face cover, I was hooked. I wanted to read it. And what was really cool about this, and why I think a lot of folks would really enjoy this, it embodies obviously a lot of elements of Batman and Gordon, and obviously Harvey Dent and Two-Face. I really feel like this is almost kind of a great year one of Harvey Dent. Now, I don't want to get into the long history of Harvey Dent and his origins and becoming Two-Face and all of that, but I want to point out a few panels and things like that I think that are worth note. Andrew Helfer wrote the story. Chris Prouse does the art with Steve Mitchell's ink.
Who did the
And
cover? Is that Sprouse and Mitchell doing the cover?
that's the Adams cover. Mhm.
Oh wow,
No, Neil Adams.
wow, awesome.
Yeah, it's a Neil Adams cover. Yeah, I know. Yeah, so yeah, it's beautiful. Truly a beautiful cover. It kind of starts with just Two-Face. Obviously, Harvey's having nightmares and things like that. But what you really get to is you get to this first shot with with Bruce as Batman in the cave. He's there in his lab, and he's basically on a case. He's trying to figure out who this serial killer is and that kind of thing. And there's no, doesn't have the cowl on, that kind of thing. And there's a quick little Alfred jabs, which is always awesome about, because there's like this little off camera on the top right where it says sniff sniff, and it's like, how long since you watched this outfit? He's like, well, I got to go out, so he just leaves. But it's like, oh my gosh, well, and Alfred's thought bubble is, and heaven help any criminals that are downwind. So I mean, obviously, Batman's gotten sweaty and gross in his uniform, and it's a mess. And Alfred, of course, being the butler and this quintessential caretaker, wants to take care of him. So you do get a little dose of Alfred and the humor that Alfred does bring to the equation. And we cut to the serial killer, which a very dark, bloody scene, graphic, intense. And of course, it cuts to this guy, and there's a couple of pages and panels in between, guys. This is basically when Batman, he kind of pretty much had pieced together who this guy was. And the guy is basically kind of a Jack Ripper. He's basically, imagine a Jack Ripper type who's been getting away with it. Batman's on the case, finally figures it out, catches him like right after he leaves the hotel where that bloody scene was. Police arrive right when he gets him. And the guy basically confesses. He says, listen, I'm in the mood for a rather protracted court trial. That would be amusing, wouldn't it? And so it's like, Batman's like, okay, I got him, right? So long ago, I promised never to kill, never to sink down to their level. Like, Batman's like so furious because this guy's murdered so many people.
Well, I got to say,
when the police are on the scene,
I'm very impressed with Sprouse's facial expressions in that scene. That was very well done. I like that a lot. That's like Batman. You can really see the rage in Batman's face, and you can kind of see the whimsy of the killer in his facial expressions. I really like how Sprouse got across some really great emotions in that scene.
Yeah, this is a very emotionally driven issue in a lot of different ways, and it's captured really, really well. So what's transpiring is there's no evidence. This guy has never left a trail. They have no evidence. The crime scene, even though they found all these dead bodies and the blood everywhere, this guy has done this amazing job. I thought of Dexter. Imagine them, Batman catching Dexter from that famous show. And Jim already knows we're not going to get this guy. And there's Batman in the top. He says, he told me, he confessed it all, that he did it and that he enjoyed it. And Gordon's like, I know. Put him away, Jim. Put him away forever. He's like, well, we'll try. We will. This isn't political, even in Gotham. There's no such thing as politics where serial killers are concerned. But he was tricky and efficient. He never left a single clue. We'll be lucky if he even gets to trial. So then Batman's just getting furious. He basically just starts repeating himself. He's like, but he admitted it. He admitted to killing these people. Like, he's not remorseful or anything like that. And Jim just knows. Jim knows. And Batman's like starting to kind of lose it a little bit. And then you head to court. And basically this is Bruce's thought process is what we see here in these bubbles once you get to court. In the top right, that's actually Harvey. Now, I was just about the art too. Chris Sprouse doesn't get credit because this comes out in 1990. 1992 is the premiere of the Batman animated series. I didn't look up to see if Sprouse did some episodes, but his design of Harvey is very similar to the Harvey design in the animated series. And I think that's really great. And this is definitely a precursor type story of the transition of Harvey as Two-Face. I really, really love this issue. And basically, there's the court case is like the top right says, but a man disguised as a bat can never testify in a court of law. My justice may be fair, but it's always inadmissible as evidence. And so it falls to Harvey Dent, district attorney, to do the one thing neither the police nor the Batman can do: put away the beast forever. And I'm like, oh, so good. So he's making his pitch. It's very, very good, and that's fine. A quick shot of Bruce in disguise. It's being really no evidence. They have nothing other than circumstantial stuff to get this guy, and they know he's going to walk. So then we cut to Jim. Now he snapped. So Jim is actually loading the gun. He's literally like, by tomorrow morning he'll be free, found innocent by a jury of his peers, and let loose to do it all over again. And Gordon's like, I can end it all right now. I can pick him off as he passes past his cell window. No need for verdicts. I know he did it. Everyone in court knows. A triumph of justice, poetic if not legal. He deserves it. And then Batman enters. Perfect timing, of course. Jim, it's not a good idea. So there's back and forth of the moral compass and the conscience between the two of them. And this doesn't always get touched on. We get this in year one, of course, when the Batman Gordon stuff really gets solidified on how they're going to move forward with their relationship. But in this issue, you really do see a yin and yang between Gordon and Bats, how they handle that. And of course, this is just I just love the dynamics of the art. They just did so much work with some of the detail of when they come back with their not guilty verdict, chaos breaks out in court. Basically, it becomes a riot, and they basically heads to the judge's chamber. And in the judge's chamber, of course, this confronts Harvey. Now, there's been a couple of scenes with Harvey and the coin, but basically Harvey has sort of like the same type of characteristics this guy thinks that he does. Like there's a good and a bad side to you. You know, you have to be able to let it go, that kind of thing. So never mix business with pleasure. And then he's playing with his coin and that kind of thing. So Sirocco's going to walk. Harvey, so now, you know, we've already talked about Batman being pushed to his edge over this case, Gordon being pushed to the edge over this case, and now Harvey is being pushed to the edge over this case. And sure enough, it's Harvey who gives in to his side. He says, I've taken your advice. Dent, is that you? Speak to me. Because he calls him in the middle of the night, and of course a bomb goes off, and he's gone. So Harvey is the one who gives in to the dark side. And then as he transitions into a more famous DA, he's getting more and more volatile. He's doing more crazy things. So in this scene, he's pressing the Batman because he's been introduced to the Batman by Gordon. They don't have a great relationship, but another clearly guilty criminal named Pike is the one that gets out. And basically, Dent is like, well, I want you to go and plant this gun on him. Like, you know he's guilty, blah, blah, blah. We just don't have the evidence. You know what I mean? I can't touch him legally. And Batman, of course, refuses. We have the moral compass back and forth. So what does Dent do? This is where Dent goes completely unhinged. He goes completely off the rails. He attacks the guy, Pike. I'm sorry, Pike attacks him. He goes out looking for Pike, but Pike attacks him, beats Pike to a pulp using his own weapon right here. And look at the art of how they subtly just make it also like the Jack the Ripper scene we had earlier. Like he's become the serial killer that he killed earlier. Like he's become that person. It's insane. And this is in a restaurant talking about Dent. Go ahead. You were going to say something?
No, I was going to say is like, yeah, you can see it's like it's the whole flipping of the script where the guy who was the virtuous one becomes the monster he fought because of what the monster has done to him.
Sure. Yeah. Yes. It's just beautiful. It's just beautiful. So, it just continues to. There's becoming less and less Harvey, and you're seeing more and more of the Two-Face side. This is actually him daydreaming in court because he's just losing the script. Like he's not able to hold together. They don't have evidence. He's not able to get these convictions, that kind of thing. And he's daydreaming about just taking law in his own hand and just being this violent monster. And then ultimately, when he's coming face to face with this situation, he's interrogating this criminal on the stand. And he says, there's something wrong here. And then you could see he's trying to pretend that he needs an acid, and he throws acid on Harvey's face. And of course, we fast forward later on for the big reveal. So a lot of setup in the hospital. A lot of people are concerned. Obviously, it's been visited by, Batman checks with Gordon. There's all these pages. It's a very long issue, actually, because the annuals usually are longer. But this is the big reveal where you see what he actually looks like now. You're like, holy cow, this is insane. And then, of course, Batman does bring him in when he attacks. Basically, this is a cop, not Gordon. And the cop is the one that's been tied to a lot of the cover-up regarding evidence, different things that have gone on, and he basically snaps, and he ultimately, when he figures that out, he goes to kill him personally, and Batman of course gets there just in time and saves the guy, but not really. The gun goes off and actually killed him, so that's what the bottom right actually is. So he's in a prison cell. He wakes up it's like a mental hospital, and he wakes up because there's doctors that were talking about this experimental surgery that they did on him to make him look like Harvey Dent again. And his girlfriend talks about the coin to Gordon and Batman, which was important for us to understand the dynamic of Two-Face. But it ultimately ends with he can't handle being who he is. He just uses his own face to make it look like Two-Face again. And that's how it ends. And it's just, to me, it's a quintessential origin of Harvey and Two-Face and the Batman Gordon dynamics, how they deal with justice, how they struggle with the morality and trying to walk that fine line between justice, what's legal, what's not legal, becoming the vigilantes and the monsters that they're trying to put away. Just all of those different elements come together in one issue, even though it's, again, a longer issue because it's an annual. This is not a high dollar book or anything like that. Very similar to what James showcased. Like, this is his probably wouldn't run you more than $5. And again, you go to a local shop, it's a back issue. You may find this thing for nothing. You may find it like for $1 or $2. Same thing with the annual. Like, it's just not a high profile, other than the fact that it has this beautiful Neil Adams cover. I would think people that are into covers would at least want to consider.
Well, I was actually very impressed with Sprous's work on this one. I mean, his style, as most people who are familiar with him know, that his work it seems simplistic, but yeah, he put a lot of detail in that courtroom scene when the riot happens. I mean, all the close-ups of the faces and all the people in the background, and there was a lot of detail put in. I was impressed with what he did there. I was like, wow, that's not something Sprouse is noted for, is all that kind of heavy detail work and expressiveness. But yet he had it in this issue. I was like, wow, that's really great. I like that a lot. I was very impressed with what he did here.
And I mean, obviously you can't show every single panel and every single page, but there are even more, because there's a lot of courtroom panels where you see Bruce in disguise listening to the hearings, and you see the different cases and things like that. So you see different faces and people around different characters, and he put definitely a lot of interest in detail in expressions and reactions and things like that really make it come to life. But like I said, the way he handles the movement with Batman and Gordon and Harvey, especially as we get towards that climax, I think it's just beautiful. And then to see Harvey basically become the monster is, it's quite literal, but then of course he's so mentally ill from all of this. You get a great sort of like explanation and portrayal of Harvey's mental illness and this dual personality.
What I kind of get from that is, like, for example, Batman has Alfred as a sounding board, which prevents him from going over the edge, and Gordon has Batman as a sounding board. It prevents him from going over the edge. But in this, Harvey had no one to be that sounding board, and so he goes over the edge.
Yeah, because even when people push back, there's not a person that's sort of a confidant. There's not a trust person. Yes. Like, he's still the third wheel in the Gordon Batman dynamic. And they do a good job, though, because they do set up the coin. They do set up the coin came from the dad. There's stuff from the dad that's played up a little bit, but it never overshadows the whole story and things like that. So that's what I like. I like the fact that they this is a great sort of, like I said, like a year one. And I will say it does feel as though it is like a precursor to what many fans, they didn't get into Batman until the animated series. So it would be something that would be easily digestible by those fans. If you wanted something if you like that series, I think this is an issue that you easily would love. And I loved revisiting it for this just as much as I did back when I bought it for the first time. I just love this issue. I think it's fantastic. So.
Well, and something I enjoyed, because, again, contrasting with my issue, mine, you saw in the early first couple pages, there was a lot of talk, but then after he gets out into space, it's pretty much all action from then on. You see, he's facing that monster, sure. He's battling that creature, and it's all action until the very end when you get to the moral. Whereas in yours, there's a few moments of action, spread out between, but it's a lot more of a slow burn. It's a lot more dramatic. It's a lot more focused on the building of the characters rather than on the action of what they're doing more. And I just thought that's a nice contrast to the issue that I I gave, whereas mine's more like kind of like upfront in your face, here it is, and yours more like it's more considered, it's more thoughtful, and it's something that you would have to take more time in reading. It's like not something you're going to read. Like if you're looking for something that's a slam bam, thank you, ma'am. My issue might give you what you want, but yours is definitely one you got to sit down and be like, I want to read. I want to really get into this, and I just thought it was a nice contrast to the issue I gave.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely one of the cerebral takes and issues of Batman, not a punch fist fight. There's not a lot of thugs. There's not a lot of swinging from a grappling hook. There's not a bunch of Batmobile scenes or anything like that. This is definitely more of just this incredible moral conflict that's been thrust upon these men and how everything kind of plays out. And I got to be honest, and the serial killer, like he really is a really cool Jack the Ripper type villain. And like I said, I mean, the way he's drawn wouldn't work as Dexter, but it just reminded me of a Dexter, kind of like this completely messed up individual that continues to just get away with it.
Well, maybe some of the people who behind Dexter, they actually read that issue, and that's part of where they got the idea. Is like, hey, let's do a character like this.
Yeah, that or like because it definitely also reminded me of like because there the early episodes of a show called Blacklist. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that as well.
I remember that show with
James Spader. The first couple of seasons where they're like just hunting down monsters and they're just using his information to find each monster. I'm like, yeah, this is like this because there's one where like the dude just puts people in a bathtub and use different chemicals and just liquefies people. Like that, he just liquefies humans, and there's no evidence. So you have all these scenes of him, stripping and all the plastic and all these different things because he just chemically dissolves humans. There's no evidence because it all just goes down the drain. And because of that scene where you see him strip and there's just blood everywhere and trash bags, you're like, oh, this guy, Batman doesn't even have evidence. Like Batman has no file on this guy, but he gets a confession. He knows who it is. He's just piecing.
And again, the guy he confesses to Batman probably because he knows he can't do anything. Like I'm confessing to you, but what are you going to do? You're a guy who wears a mask. You can't testify in the court.
Right. And even then, it would just be hearsay.
It's like he's tormenting him with that. It's like, the truth, and I'm telling you the truth, so you know that you're right. But there's nothing you can do about it.
Right. No, I agree. So, well, folks, I want to hear from people. I want to hear suggestions from people. I want to hear thoughts on, do you like this concept of something great, something good that we think you would enjoy? I think that we're going to drop this on a Wednesday morning so that you would be able to have this waiting for you. So once a month, we'll have this. Maybe we get so excited we start doing it more. I don't know yet, but we want to try it out on you guys. Tell you guys to see what kind of feedback and thoughts and reception you guys would have from it all. James, of course, is just a plethora of knowledge and interesting conversation, of course. And it's always just a pleasure to spend time with him. So, but with that, I think we're going to wrap this episode of What is Great. However, if you are a member, you'll be able to get one more question, one more back. And so, if you're a member or not, just consider that investing in the old Pops universe here and finding out about a little bit more of our conversation, because that'll be a members only video that will drop just for you folks. But if not, hopefully we'll see you next time with What is Great. And right below is all your information you need to subscribe to this guy. Check out his work over there on Sequential Treasure. Check out his art website and get some original art, and also find out information over on his channel where he gets to spend once a month or so with Aaron Lopresti, one of the famous comic book writers who's transitioned beautifully into the indie sphere. His Wraith of God is definitely one of, if not the best, among the Comicsgate group. If you want to continue throwing labels around, I'm not a big fan of that, but the indie sphere for sure.
Comic Art Convo on Aaron's channel, and our next one is going to be on the 28th of January. So make sure to head over to Aaron's channel and subscribe so you can check that out when it happens. Going to be a lot of fun. Our opening topic, which has Aaron very excited, is our top 3 favorite episodes of Star Trek, the original series.
Ooh, yeah. TOS stuff. Yeah. All right. Cool. That'd be awesome. So if you're a Trekkie, maybe for you. So make sure you check that out. And again, we love your thoughts and feedback and comments. So make sure you hit us up on that. So thank you again for watching, folks.
Peace out.
All right, James. So we got to pick, and we both picked completely different companies, let alone concepts. Like, it was so easy to see the compare and contrast between Iron Man, Batman, an action comic versus a cerebral comic, a monster sci-fi in space versus like a street courtroom crime drama with Harvey Dent.
And
I mean,
yet,
I just
there is
love
a similarity.
Yeah.
They're both dealing with millionaires who are heroes.
Yes, indeed. So,
so they're connected, but yet completely different. I love that. Yes,
they're not connected at all. Yeah, I love it. I love it like so. So okay, again, let's stay with the Iron Man theme. I mentioned going backwards towards the Armor Wars and that kind of thing. For someone who's listen, I actually like this book. Man, this was a really good choice. What is your advice on navigating to like what's next for that person that actually loved that issue?
Well, I mean, again, just that entire run by Geist, from 233 to 240, that's just a perfect little run of, issues, some great stories in there. Iron Man fights, the Great Gargoyle. He fights the Ghost. He fights, Backlash and Justin Hammer's goons. I mean, he has a lot of great stories in there, and and there's even an issue where he teams up with Spider-Man against the Radioactive Man. So I mean, again, a lot of little great stories in that short run that Geist did on the book, and I'd say that's just like right there. If that doesn't make you an Iron Man fan, reading those 7 or 8 issues, then I don't know what would.
Okay, that's fair. That's very fair. That's very fair.
But
like I said,
if you really wanted to get into it, I would just say in general the entire run that Dave Michelini and Bob Layton worked on, which is roughly from Iron Man 215 to 250. Right in there. That's like to me, that's the heart of it all. That's like the perfect Iron Man run is like, it's like about 3 years of stories, and again, it covers everything, because issue 215 begins, with the whole space station that you saw in this story. So, I mean, right there, you get the backstory. You want the backstory on that space station of Tony Stark's. 215 and 216 is where it all starts right there. So I'd say just start with Michelini's run with Layton at 215, where he had Mark Bright as the penciler, and then just go straight on through Jackson Geist, and then a little bit after that where Layton was doing the pencils and the inks. So,
and guys, that 232 issue, that Barry Windsor Smith cover,
232 with pencils by Barry Windsor Smith. So,
oh my gosh, just oh my gosh, that book is something. And yeah, the first appearance of Ghost, this is actually the introduction of Ghost, the Ghost character. So great suggestion.
Issue 219 introduced the Ghost. Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, I think those are great recommendations. If you like Iron Man, this is a great sampling. If you don't know much about it, this is also a great sampling, that kind of thing. So, and it's a great era that, I think it's just really good fun read, and good exposure to the character. So yeah. For me, I would tell people, look, if you like this and you like Batman and Harvey and you like this kind of stuff, obviously, if you have not read Batman Year One, which is, 404, 405, 6, 7, 8, you haven't read that kind of stuff, Batman, the early sort of like re-origin of Batman, that would be a great place to spend your time. And really got to be honest, just those 400s are fine. Like, you're just getting the right kind of era, pre-Nightfall. Like, you're just getting just the normal. Batman will have a couple issues against Joker, then he'll have some street crime, and then he'll be fighting Riddler, and then he'll be fighting Penguin for a couple issues, and then you have just have this story and that story. So if you just really want to get into that era, that's this 88 to 90 era. It predates Nightfall, because we're way before that. Actually, we're a couple years before that. Great writers, great artists, that kind of thing on the main Batman title. I can't tell you what's wrong. I'm too biased to tell people no, but I wanted to get James's thought on what he thought about Iron Man, because he definitely would be more well read in the Iron Man sphere than I am. So yeah, any thoughts on that too, as far as Harvey and bats and that kind of thing? If someone's like, oh man, I really like this.
I think your recommendation of like the Batman in the early 400s is great. I'd say all the way up until like right before A Death in the Family. All that stuff right there.
Death in the Family makes a big turn. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where it makes a big turn. But like, there's a great story in there, Batman 417 to 420, the 10 Nights of the Beast. I mean, that's a great story right in there. That's definitely one that I would recommend. One of my favorite Batman stories.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And I will say, folks, if you Batman 423, the famous Todd McFarlane cover. Very, very expensive right now. So you may have to go find yourself a trade or something like that. That one's the one that's like, ooh. Oh, does he have one? He has got a raw one. Oh my gosh, look at that. This book.
This is a third printing. This isn't a first print. This is third print.
I'm trying to get I have to click the right buttons and I'm boomerang. So yeah, this is, there are 5 variants of this book. So you guys know. So there's like Canadian versions, second print versions, third prints can run all the way up to $50 though, my friend, just so you know.
Really?
I think you and I have talked about that. It's like, this is just odd thing. Like this book was probably $5 for years. Everyone loved it. Not just saying that, it's just that the supply and demand, but something switched and whew, it's bonk. That's hard. That's hard to believe in some ways. Cause it's just like, man, but no, yeah, it's been great. It's been fun. If you guys are members, if you really want to have some comments and input, you are top of the line. You are front and center about what you want us to do. So if you have an issue or topics and things like that, we can always have James back. We can do those kinds of things. And I have to be honest, I'm not opposed to opening the door and let you members come up in here and hang out with James and ask some questions, just do some stuff. So you guys let me know. You guys got to call the shots. You guys are the ones. So let's do this. So, all right. Well, that folks, thanks again to James, and thanks to all of you watching. We can't do this without you. All the stuff again is below. Make sure you're connected to this guy. So thanks again for your time, and I'm Pops.
Have you paid your dues, Jack? Yes, sir. The check is in the mail.